Hi, today we're going to talk a little bit about Bloom's taxonomy. Now, this may be a topic or a subject that's very, very familiar to you, or it might be one you haven't visited in a while and could use a little bit of a refresher on. So basically what Bloom said is that not all learning is equal. He saw it as being in 6 distinct layers, from remembering, through understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Now, this is the original model. It has been revised several times, and in the newer model, the creation and evaluation stages are reversed. I don't think that that's terribly critical because this is not meant to be a linear process. In other words, as we're learning, as we're creating, as we're doing, we're engaging multiple levels. And then we may be revisiting lower levels, ascending to higher levels. So it's a process that should be ongoing and fluid. The bottom half of the pyramid, the bottom 3 layers, apply a lower level or more basic understanding, while the higher 3 levels require a deeper understanding and mastery of the content. Now, this is not to say that one is inherently more important than another. Those bottom levels are necessary. They provide a scaffold. Without being able to remember, understand, and apply topics, we could never reach these top levels. So all levels are important. There's nothing wrong with these, but what we want to do in education is make sure we get to the top levels. Don't get stuck down here on the bottom 3 levels, but make sure that the student knowledge eventually ascends to the top. Okay, let's talk very briefly as a reminder or refresher on the different levels. The base level at the bottom is called remembering or knowledge. And what that really comes down to is the recall of facts. So if I asked you for a particular state capital and you could give me the answer, that would be knowledge or remembering. Okay, if I asked you what 2 plus 2 was and you just spit out 4 because it just bounced into your head, that is knowledge or recall. The next level up is called comprehension, or in our diagram it's depicted as understanding. And this is the ability to do a little bit more with that knowledge. In other words, I could paraphrase it, I could explain it. It's not just something that pops into my head and I know, but I have some depth of understanding, keyword right here, about what that actually means. So I may be able to remember and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance, but if I can't phrase it and basically tell you what it means, then I lack this level of understanding. The next level up from the bottom is something called application. The word they use here is to apply, so very, very similar. And that's being able to do something with your knowledge and your understanding. Okay, so if I give you an equation and you can solve that, you can plug the numbers in, you can come to an answer, that's an example of application. Now, application is not something new or original. It's basically taking this skill that I have and being able to apply it to very similar situations. So if I'm a tax accountant and I'm doing the same thing, not to say that tax accountants don't need to function on these higher levels, but in many tasks they're simply applying the same skills over and over again to similar situations. Not exactly the same, but they're basically the same. Okay, now we're going to cross the line here and enter into the 3 higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. The first is analysis, verb here being to analyze, and that's to be able to pull apart an idea or a topic into its component pieces, to examine how they relate to each other, to compare and contrast them. So if I ask you to take 2 characters from a novel and compare and contrast them, that is a classic example of analysis. If I ask you to look at 2 math problems and to analyze them, to be able to draw kind of a new conclusion or to integrate things from each of those two problems into another solution or to apply them in a more complex way, that requires analysis. Okay, I am going to jump ahead to the top for a moment, and I can understand why they reverse these, although I personally still like them in this order, to the creation process. Now, create does not mean simply to make something. Create means to produce something new and original. So I'm not following a pattern, I'm not following a mode. I've used my knowledge and my understanding, my ability to apply that. I've analyzed things, and now I've created something new. Keywords mentioned here are to construct, to formulate, to author is great. Is a great example because that indicates that what you've done is your own work, something new to this world. Okay, and the last level that I'm going to talk about is this evaluation level. Sometimes when we think about evaluation, we think about taking that rubric and seeing how well we did. But evaluation is really, when we talk about that in terms of Bloom's, we're talking about self-evaluation. We're not talking about some outside entity putting a grade or an assessment or giving feedback. We're talking about our own evaluation. And I always like to think about this in two component pieces. One is I can evaluate the product that I've actually created. So I've made something new and original. And if I have the ability to sit and critically look at that to determine what was good about it, perhaps what I would like to improve, how I would do things differently, or how this product might be changed in a different environment or for a different need. Those are evaluation processes. I'm judging it. I'm selecting parts of it and looking at them to see not only how they integrate with the whole, but what their value is to the product that I've created. Now, the other element of evaluation, and I think this is critically important, is to be able to evaluate your process. Okay, a term that relates to that is metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. And it's extremely powerful. If you can elevate students to that level where they can think about their own processes and how they're learning and how they're making decisions, this empowers them immensely. Okay, so when you think about evaluation, try to include components in your project that have students critically evaluate their own work, but also their own process, how they got there.